Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Latest in Travel podcast by Guestcentric. I'm very excited to have with me today Jason Craparo, who is the founder and CEO of Hovr, which is a technology company that is revolutionizing the way that people engage with brands and each other on the internet. Jason is very passionate also about helping marketers in the travel and hospitality industry to drive more conversions and direct bookings. So Jason, first of all, thanks for joining us. It's really great to have you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure on this side as well. And if you don't mind, could you give your like a quick background on yourself, just for people that might be tuning in that might not know, just a little bit about how you got into the industry and like your journey so far up until today and what you've been up to and so on?
Sure. Well, my first job in hospitality was dishwashing at 14 years old. I was a bellman by 18 at the Binghamton Regency in upstate New York. Went on to own fast food restaurants and then work inside stadiums, delivering hospitality experiences, and got my MBA from Babson College, which is an entrepreneurship school outside of Boston, in 2014, and then launched this company, which would later become Hovr.
Nice. So you got like real sort of a varied experience, sort of more of the operational experience. And then what made you choose like getting into the tech space specifically in terms of our industry?
So when I was at Babson, it's been the #1 school in the world for entrepreneurship for 25 straight years. So when you're at a pub with friends or you're just after class talking, you're always talking about ideas. And naturally, there's an engineering school next to it, so it's technology, engineering, entrepreneurship. So it didn't necessarily jump up and I said, like, I want to start a tech company. It was more like, if we were going to solve a problem, how would that problem need to be solved? And new, modern, patented technologies happened to be the way that we needed to solve this problem.
Nice. Cool. Well, so one of the reasons why I'm actually like quite looking forward to our discussion today is mostly like in terms of your expertise in helping like hotel brands in terms of communicating their value like online and helping optimizing their direct channels to better engage with guests. So I'd like to sort of pick your brain on some of the, I guess, the latest trends in this space and like what sort of best practices hotels could consider in this regard. So sort of looking at independent hotels specifically, and this is something I think in our experience, we've seen it quite a bit. It's, hotels, they have, their uniqueness and they have like this opportunity to develop or craft like a really strong brand and then communicate that like on their online channels. But then I guess like once, I don't know if this is the case with you, but sometimes when they open their properties and so on, it kind of the brand and sort of consistently communicating it across their direct channels sometimes falls a little bit to the wayside, I guess, in terms of other operational priorities and commitments. Do you observe this on your side as well? And if so, what would be your recommendation to hotels in terms of the importance of prioritizing their brand and also making sure that it is, I guess, effectively communicated online in the digital space and meeting, the consumers and their demands currently?
Sure. Well, a lot of people talk about brands, building a brand, having a cohesive brand experience across different channels, across different touch points. And that's great. When you're looking to book, though, the story has to come to life. And so I would say it's not a trend. It's here and it's forever, is storytelling. So people need to be able to see themselves in your story. And the brand crafts the brand, and they show lifestyle images, and they create culinary experiences and excursions and room setups and moods in order to invite people into their story. Do you like this? Do you want to be a part of this? Are you like-minded that this suits you? And so when people can see themselves living in that story, vacationing there, going on the dolphin excursion, they want to be a part of that story. When the brand is just the brand is cold, and we don't really see ourselves in there. And that's why a lot of people just don't end up converting with some brands. The brand is great, but they've failed to tell a story that invites people to be a part of that journey on vacation. That we see that time and time again. Every day we see this across multiple customers, prospects, and just even when we're booking our own travel, the storytelling is really just not there, but the storytelling is everything.
I guess sometimes also, and this isn't just the case with hotels, it's across like all industries. I think a pitfall sometimes with this, and especially if you're looking at different departments or so on, you know, there's maybe some hotel owners or general managers or something, or they're very attached to their narrative that they've maybe crafted around their business. And it's like, we want to communicate this, and this is our brand, and this is how we're going to communicate it. But then let's say, you know, the marketing department is like, well, actually guests want X, Y, and Z, and we need to make them a part of that story. So I don't know, I guess in terms of your, like, what would be your opinion on what hotels should do to kind of, I guess, relinquish that sort of attachment to what they want to communicate and instead adapt to sort of meet the guests and actually create that story that the guests can see themselves as part of the brand story.
Yeah, and I would say it's not that we should abandon that. Brands have a certain right to, hey, this is how we want to assert ourselves. And marketers, we always say, right, like, I have something to say and I want these people to hear it. It just might not be what they're trying to hear. It might not be based on where they are in their decision-making journey, the piece of content or the piece of information that they're trying to absorb to get answers to their questions, to get inspired enough to move and move to action. So I would say that it's a healthy mix of, what do we want to assert? What would we like them to know? And then when can we package this in a way that's going to be most digestible to the site visitor? And sometimes it's not right when the page loads, the very first thing that you see or hear is that. It's just like going to an event. You want to get in, you want to feel the room, maybe walk around a little bit, and then start engaging in more of the high processing power mental activity. So a lot of times people aren't receptive to those messages because they're not placed in the right time on the page. Or like at Hovr, one of our patents transforms text on a page into content delivery. So if you are sitting to read a paragraph and we're mentioning a term such as breathtaking views, we can show them. We're adding content in the right context. Most of the world's content is produced out of context and lives out of context. And what I mean by that is there's 4 different reasons. All of the world's content that's ever been produced can be boiled down to 4 main purposes: to educate, to inspire, to entertain, and to convert. Sadly, most of the world's content is being consumed for pure entertainment. Like if you have a YouTube channel, and here's all the videos we've ever wanted to put out. And then if you sit there and you go one by one, it's entertainment. It's completely detached from the action we're looking for. So by bringing content and putting it in the right context, the context is, I'm looking to book, I'm open for adventure, I'm discovering, I'm on your site. Now we can use content for education, inspiration, and then hopefully get them to act. So it's really just putting it in the right context to enable to unlock a lot more value for the brands.
I guess the $1 million question would be like, which context to place where? Like at what point, you know, should we inspire the guests? At which point should we educate the guests? Like, is there any recommendations on your side on how like hotels could manage that strategy and know where to sort of, I guess, communicate in the right way with their content?
Well, coincidentally, our guests are constantly telling us and teaching us and asking us stuff. So the first thing we do when we bring in a new client is like, let's go to your social media. What are people asking you in comments that these questions are going unanswered? What DMs are you getting? Wondering, hey, I saw your reel and this is really interesting, but when does this thing open? Or can I bring kids to this excursion? Like, we have so many questions. Your actual front desk folks, pick up the phone and answer, or call centers, they get questions all the time from both prospects, right, who haven't even booked yet, and also people who have already taken the leap and are currently upstairs 10 rooms up, and they still don't know about some things that we offer, how they could attain these things. So there and high traffic FAQ sections on the website. Our guests have a lot of questions, and sometimes it's just mapping where could they use a little support. We're mentioning this concept, but for someone who's never been to Columbus, Ohio, it's pretty vague. Maybe we should demystify it. Maybe we should pair content with it. So it's more about initially setting up to configure a context strategy initially, which is what questions are they having? Where can we infuse content to help alleviate them? A lot of times people don't want to talk to human beings. They just want their questions answered. And so that's what we set out to do first and foremost, is try to pair what questions and what needs are the site visitors having, and then how can we develop a context strategy to get the answers that they are looking for.
That sounds like the way to go, especially with I guess like the increased demands, like for I guess more personalized, tailored experiences and offers and things like that, you know, before even like the check-in. And I will agree that I am I guess a consumer, putting myself in the consumer's shoes, you know, when I'm online, as minimal, like if I can do most of the things like DIY, that works for me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the human intervention, it's like when I have a doubt or if I have an issue on something and I need some clarity. So yeah. And sort of going back to, oh, sorry, you were going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, you know, the DIY mentality, people want to self-service. This is what they want to do. They don't want to wait on hold. They don't want to go through sort of an AI entrapment on a call center, and they just want the answers. But sadly, we have a lot of clients and prospects that we talk to. We say, okay, well, let's go look at what's going on YouTube. And we'll see that in the last 6 months, 20,000 people potentially left the website to go watch a video on YouTube. So the video does not exist on the website. It only exists on YouTube, but they only have 200 followers on YouTube. And those people didn't watch the video that many times themselves. So what we can see is people, unfortunately, are having to go on scavenger hunts to find the information. We should not be making them work this hard. That content should be paired right on the site in a cohesive way that kind of blends and looks like it's woven into the fabric of the site.
Yeah, and I guess meets the consumers in every touch point, like across the channel. Sort of going back, I guess, to the original premise, I guess, of these questions. I think with, like, let's say, you know, a hotel brand, like they have their brand, they have their story and so on. But how can hotels, I guess, adapt, like, you know, as the industry evolves, as technology evolves and consumer expectations kind of change, you know, like, for instance, more, you know, use of mobile, for example. That's a pretty, like, I mean, it's been around for a while now, but like different, you know, and like enhanced personalization and these kind of different demands that will only continue growing, like from now until the future. What would be your advice for hotels to kind of stick to their narrative in a way, but like at the same time also balance like these evolving consumer trends and make sure that they're, I guess, keeping up with the times in that regard?
I would say, you know, speaking to customers, not having this, I have a hammer, so everything's a nail. I have a narrative. I have something I want to project. But more so continually testing and talking with customers, and saying, you know, hey, we're going to solve this problem this way. We're going to try to give you more content. Is this what you want? For the mobile item, we literally configure our mobile experience completely separately than we do the desktop experience. There are elements on our desktop which may not be on our mobile. Videos should be all portrait on a mobile device. So when you tap into a YouTube video that's landscaped on a mobile, that seems foreign. That now you've just made me think, why is this? I've got to rotate my phone, right, and watch it like that. And so these customers, especially the younger generation, they're on TikTok, Reels, swiping motion, gestures for how to dismiss things. They know those things. And so when we as a brand are trying to fit, you know, older technology into a mobile device, it breaks. in their mind. They're like, wait, hold on. I'm having to think now about how to dismiss this, about how to actually do the things that I'm setting out to do, because social media taught them how things should behave on a mobile device. And so every effort and no expense should be spared in trying to move the experience to a mobile device and make it feel like it was made for the mobile device.
Yeah. I guess it makes sense. So in terms of yeah, meeting that demand, and like especially also with Gen Alpha coming up and stuff as well, which they're only going to be using mobile. Although personally, I do make my bookings on desktop. I don't know why, but it's just the thing that like I haven't yeah, I haven't changed it. For some reason on a phone it's different. I can't see it properly. I can't type as well. So.
And that's a and that is a problem, right? So even just hearing that insight, there should be a new business that sprouts up tomorrow based on just that guiding insight. Hey, people are choosing to engage with and consume content on a mobile device, but they really don't trust or like the booking experience. How can we innovate on that? So I hope one of the listeners is running with that right now.
Yeah, it's true. Definitely an opportunity there to give some value. Another sort of topic, I guess, and it's interesting because you mentioned, I guess, the issue of people going to YouTube and getting like a bunch of views on YouTube and so on, and sort of looking, I guess, at Google and like their recent changes that they've been making to their algorithm, and like one of them being like the helpful, I think it's the helpful content changes that they've done. And then also, like, I guess they have plans now that they're, well, with Gemini and so on, they're more deeply integrating, their AI into the search engine experience. Mm-hmm. And the expectation is so somehow that I guess there will be like reduced like traffic to websites overall in general. And sort of in light of this, like, what would be your recommendations for hotels to kind of adapt to that reality and make sure that they are ranking well, even if and somehow maintain more of those conversions that actually the traffic continues going to their websites, and then they continue converting from there?
There's a whole bunch in that one question, so I'm gonna unpack it last moving forward. Google, in terms of rankings and SEO, Google loves video. So you have to have video on your site. You have to have a lot of video on your site, but they also hate load times being increased. So you have to find a happy medium. Shameless plug for Hovr here, but we offload all of the storing of the videos so that you load in your entirety. Yeah. And then we come on stage afterward. And so for our clients, what they're looking to do is increase the amount of video on the site to answer questions, boost SEO. They need it done, of course, in an ADA compliant way, and that it cannot impact performance whatsoever. So that helps keep the Google rankings up. So you want to be competitive, especially if it's a keyword that is germane to your business, right? So you want to be there. That's step one. Step two is then how competing with Gemini and some of the other technologies related to delivering the content above the search results, which is what you're now seeing. That's a big effort for them to then go down their funnel. I would say that that's happening and going to happen no matter what. You may want the content that they show to come from your source, though. So even having areas where you have images, descriptions, tags of your content, so that when they're displaying said content, it's not a Travelocity, it's not Expedia, it's actually coming from your hotel, which is going to support you. And then it'll never be the case where people don't end up on the website. So I would say if it is a reality that fewer people may be going to the website, you had better got your ducks in a row when someone does come to your site. That means having a great content strategy paired with a context strategy, ready to convert that site visitor. We know that people do trust and will seek out going to an actual hotel's vanity URL, or just if it's a luxury boutique independent hotel, going to that URL. And especially there may be some perks for booking direct, which many people now have, but that site's got to be ready not just to convert, which all of the modern websites were built to convert. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that not everyone is ready to book. So you may still be going through in your decision-making process, gathering more information, evaluating your alternatives, and you're still in discovery or dreaming modes. So if our websites were more set up for discovery, exploration, answering questions, now we have this golden opportunity to educate and inspire people to action. Before it's just, I need to go here. I already know I'm going to stay here, check availability, view the prices. Okay, I'm ready to go. But now this is one of my many stops to see if I want to be a part of your story at this hotel. And if I do, that's great, but you've got to answer some questions for me. What's this going to be like? Which room should I check out? Is there going to be a DJ at the pool on Saturdays? Like, there's so many questions people have that go unanswered, and it can be done through content delivery. So being set up and having all of your ducks in a row before people end up on the page in 2025, I think is going to be really important.
And let's say like the guest has narrowed down their choices and they're still planning, but they have like the choice between, I don't know, 3 or 4 like properties that have coincidentally very attractive websites that are meeting all these touch points in terms of the content strategy, but also the context as well. What would be your recommendations, I guess, to continue engaging the guests, even if they say like, okay, I really like this place. I'm narrowing it down to my, options, but I'm not quite ready to book just yet. I'm still going to make a decision later. What would be your advice to engage those consumers?
Well, we really aim to get single session direct bookings. That's what we try to do. That's what every effort from the moment you engage visually with an element on page to the story that's being told. The real question is for us, how do you bring someone to an emotional state on a website visit so that they actually don't leave and don't consider a second or third option? And so if you want to bring someone to an emotional state, which seems like a hard thing to do, right? How do we bring someone emotionally on a website visit? And what emotion are we looking for in particular? The only emotion that we're looking for to drive is excitement. And excitement is defined by the anticipation of an experience that is both novel and unique, both of those things happening at once. So if we want to drive someone to that state where they anticipate, I'm so excited to go on vacation, I'm staying here. If we want to get someone to that state so that they drop everything and book direct and they don't even consider second and third, we need to show them things that are exciting. We don't need to talk about the alarm clock. We don't need to talk about the hair blow dryer or the ironing board. What Hovr excels at, just through our customers, is laying out the moments that matter. Is it having a cup of coffee on this gorgeous deck? Again, storytelling. Do I want to be a part of this story? Do I see myself in this story? So where most folks are not going to be telling that story, or they're using technology or website builders that won't allow for the flexibility of storytelling. They set it up once 2 years ago, and yeah, they'll update some images, but they're really not embracing this storytelling aspect of converting. That's where I think that you'll be able to excel, is getting stories onto the site, showing the moments that matter. It could be having a glass of wine in the hot tub. It could be fishing with your son or daughter off the deck. Whatever it is that's important to you, making these moments come to life so that you're not in a position of having to buy other technology to text people or re-engage them, or in-app pushes, or discounting. Hey, we know that in their decision-making process, they're considering 3, so we've got to do a Hail Mary discount. Right? Keeping your brand strong means telling the story that you want to tell and the narrative that you want to tell, and inviting people to join that, even keeping the pricing at whatever it is that you're looking to get.
Yeah. And I guess communicating that value and stuff, it's like the price doesn't even matter. If the dream is there, then it's, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We were looking at my family. I actually delivered a keynote in April, and I told this exact story. We were looking to do a beach vacation. And we had our hearts set on maybe like, it wasn't necessarily a location. We were open to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Hilton Head, but we really just saw ourselves going down, toes in the sand. And so we were looking at different hotel options for the kids. And this was over Easter break. And what we ended up doing was a mountain vacation in Virginia to the Omni Homestead, because on their website, they had showed us that they had a whole Easter activity schedule. The Easter Bunny was going to show up, tons of activities for the kids. The pool would still be open. So like, how do we go from narrowing it down to somewhere in the Southeast, a beach vacation, to totally switching? And we spent more money and more time commuting, because we drove down instead of a flight, at this resort. And it was because we were excited. They showed us a better experience than we would have had elsewhere. And so we opted into that experience. They were able to drive excitement. And I will tell you, we spent about 2.5 weeks planning that beach vacation. We planned everything in a single session with that Omni. Single session, one day, let's do it. This looks awesome, because people drove us to an emotional state of excitement. We really anticipated that amazing experience.
Yeah. And it's all the better being able to do it all like in a single session with that seamless like experience. Definitely sounds like the way to go.
Well, you know, the reason why we wouldn't just go ahead and book it, and the reason why many of your listeners who may be hoteliers, the reason why people abandon, right? This industry has two very bad stats that are happening simultaneously. It's both. They have the largest cart abandonment rate of all of online shopping and the lowest conversion rate of all of online shopping. Now, why would that possibly be the case? The only reason people don't make a decision is because they don't want to make a mistake. They're indecisive. That's Hovr's sworn enemy, is indecisiveness. People are indecisive. Well, I don't know if this is the best location. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. Imagine traveling to the beach and having it rain all day, right? Or what are we going to do there? That doesn't seem like enough to keep the kids busy. So when people are indecisive, they don't make decisions. So our job needs to be not just answering those questions, but helping people make a decision, giving them clarity and confidence to book.
And what would be sort of moving, I guess, to kind of, I guess, the neuroscience of guiding consumers in their marketing decisions? I think like maybe, and it's very likely a possible misconception, considering that there's a lot of solutions and technologies out there that can help to enable this process. But like in terms of let's say you're an independent hotel and it's kind of like, okay, you know, there's all these, you know, there's the buyer hesitation, there's, you know, they can't make the decisions right away, or there's, you know, I guess concerns, you know, if they're making the right decision or not. What would be sort of these, like, I guess, challenges with the consumer perceptions, this and others, in your opinion, that could be transformed into, I guess, opportunities to better engage these consumers? And doesn't just have to be this example with the hesitation. Obviously, that's a big one. But if there's other challenges that you see in your experience, and how can these be transformed into opportunities to better drive those conversions?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think I'll start with just mentioning it's not on the site visitor. They're not to blame here, right? We say like they're being hesitant, they're indecisive. Now, our sworn enemy is indecisiveness, but not an indecisive person, because they're being thrust into hesitation and indecisiveness because of the experiences that they're having online. With a multitude of options, if you typed in Hotel South Beach, you've got a lot of options, right? And then they have their own, they're bringing with them expectations, budgets, norms, certain level of standards, where they want to be, location and proximity to certain amenities. Do I want to be right on Muscle Beach? Do I want to be close to the ocean, more in the Art Deco district? So their indecisiveness comes from our inability to meet them where they are and provide them all of the information and inspiration they need to make a decision. And we can, and I don't think that the Google features that you mentioned earlier with Gemini, and I don't know if that's going to help. That may be opening more of a Pandora's box, more of a lengthened time to purchase, time to book, because so many things will appear to be so appealing. So it's going to be a golden opportunity when you do get someone in a channel you own, that's not Google, or it's not Travelocity or Expedia, etc. Hey, we've got them here. Let's show them the best possible experience. There is an aspect, though, when it comes to neuroscience, specifically driving people to an emotional state on a website, that ethically, people want to be able to make their own decisions, right? So you can't, just hijack the brain and say, like, you're gonna book here. They want to, and they need to make their own decisions based on the multitude of factors that we discussed, and the variables. But having a cohesive experience that helps at each point to answer their questions, and then has continuity to different devices and different sessions, so I can pick right back up, maybe on my desktop where I was, in the mobile device as well, so that it seems like one continuous harmony when I'm booking, and not, okay, here I got to start back over fresh each and every time I go to check this place out. So I think that there's some things that you can do from a neuroscience perspective, from a psychology of setting up the website, having people believe in and buy into your brand offerings, but storytelling has to be embedded in that. And what we're looking for when I say storytelling is brain synchrony. I am showing you an experience, and you are actually picking it up and watching the video and hearing the story unfold. And so our brain synchrony is matched perfectly. And I've received your effective communication. Everything you were trying to put down as a brand, I picked it up. And that is so important, because there's a big disconnect a lot of times. This is what I want to say. This is what I want to put out there, but it's completely out of context. There's no story around it. And that's why a lot of people think, and you probably hear this all the time, like, word of mouth is so important.
Yeah.
People think that word of mouth is important because I trust my friend. I trust my family member. A lot of times we're not being induced and converted through word of mouth because of the trustworthiness. It's because every word of mouth you've ever heard is wrapped around a story. Is it not?
Yeah.
So you hear the real story of what happened. Yeah, we landed, we took an Uber in, they had our room ready, we went straight up, the view was amazing. So it was never, they had an alarm clock, we slept in, right? It's not like these pieces that were being given on the website. It's that our friends are wrapping their experience in a story for us. That's what we're buying into. That's what's convincing us to sometimes take their advice.
And would there be like some effective ways, I guess, because I know the obvious thing is usually like, oh, just publish reviews on your website and you're good to go. But like, I don't know, more, I guess, better ways or new ways, interesting ways to kind of get, I guess, previous guests or previous customers to actually advocate for independent hotel brands a bit more in terms of helping with that storytelling and helping to convince new customers to convert.
I think it starts at the leadership level for massive hotel groups, property management groups, just general hospitality management groups, or individual owners. It starts there. And we often, when we have someone reach out and we're talking to them on a sales prospecting call, we just start, tell me what story you're trying to tell. Do you have a story? We don't ever really support folks that have low consideration products, services like a hotel, that have no story whatsoever. If your story is, it's late at night, I'm on a highway, and there's a hotel here for me to sleep in, $65, that's not a story. We can't really help you, right? We could show you the room, but it's inconsequential. It doesn't matter. So where we excel at is trying to help you tell your story. What is that story? Why is this so important to you, to your family, to this area? And bringing that to life. That has to be a central component of delivering content. Otherwise, what you end up with is people that just want to add video to a site. Adding video to a site will not solve your problems. You've just got a big video on your site that people may or may not engage with. It's still out of context. It's not paired with calls to action. So I would say one of the biggest things is trying to have that leader tell a story and then embrace the fact that they want the brain synchrony. They want, when someone comes on my site, I want them to hear my story and be compelled by the story of this hotel, just the way that we presented it. And unfortunately, there are many out there that will set up a website or have someone set up a website for them and not revisit the topic. It was as if it was a box that was checked. It's not a living, breathing organism that when things aren't going well and customers aren't responding, let's tweak it a little. Let's change it. Maybe we need to shorten this clip. Maybe we need to change the appearance of this. And so Hovr customers change their elements, maybe 5-10 times a month. Hey, what's working? What's not? Let's change it. What are the customers responding to? And it's not something that we did that one time when we first set up the hotel. It's got to be continually looked at because the customers change from one month to the next. Their norms change, their expectations change. And so when we find folks that just don't really provide any updates to the websites, they're leaving the site visitor out in the cold. It's like, hey, it's up to you. If you don't like the way that we set this thing up 2 years ago, go to YouTube, go to Instagram and see our recent stuff. That's not going to get it done. They really have to embrace it and bring those elements into that experience so that people can get the answers that they're looking for.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like a website, any channel shouldn't remain static. But I guess like putting myself in the perspective of like a hotel that maybe, let's say they, have the perception, oh, there's limited resources, or we don't, being on top of this and maintaining it is, it seems like a bit much. And it kind of, again, maybe falls to the bottom of the list of priorities. What would be sort of your recommendations in terms of like steps that they should take to actually have this as a strategy? Like, okay, we need to constantly revisit this. We constantly need to adapt and like, make sure that we're resonating with guests as they evolve, as their preferences evolve, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a short answer, which is use Hovr, and then a longer answer, which is you can do it yourself, and you can do it yourself to some extent. It may not be as effective, but we were literally built for teams that have less resources, less staffing, but they're having to do more with less. And so we took a process that normally takes 30 to 45 days and brought it down to 45 seconds. Now with our generative AI feature that launched last month, we do which page should I put this on? Where on the page would this play best? What should it look like? What video should I use? And the 2 calls to action. We put that together as a suggestion in 1 second. You hit generate and we do the work for you. And that's incredible. It can't get any faster than that. But if you were, let's say you couldn't afford $2.99, $4.99 a month, which is what Hovr costs, you could do it yourself. So we always say this is a 3-step process. So step 1 is analyze your content. Do we have any content right now? And content again is text, it's images, it's video. It doesn't have to be video, although we would highly suggest video if that video is compelling and good. If it's going to highlight things that you don't want highlighted, bad. But the content, when you analyze it, it could be the amenities, reviews, dining, local activities. A lot of what we do when we stage for people, it's showing what's going to happen outside of the hotel. There's a farmer's market down the street. You're 2 blocks from the wharf. You can grab this boat tour. There's so much happening right in our city or in our towns. And then what views, the different room types. So you analyze that content. Step 2 is you convene your team and you say, like, what story are we trying to tell? What are those moments that matter? What are the amenities for our core target audience? What are the amenities that matter most? What are the experiences nearby that we want our guests to most discover or that we get questions about? And then what questions are we continually getting from them? Where are they getting stuck on the website? And step 3 is putting it all together. So we know where people are getting stuck. We know what story we want to tell. We know what we're trying to highlight. Now let's bring in content and trim it down and deploy it specifically in the places where we're opening up Pandora's box. We want to put those things back in and button it up so that we have a cohesive experience for people. So then it's about pairing it. Hovr does have 12 patents that allow you to just drag and drop it, but you could theoretically pair content in sections in different ways. YouTube embeds would be the easiest, cheapest way for a developer to go about that, although it's just not ideal. It's hard square angles, no calls to action, no tracking, but you could theoretically pair it if you had to and you had no budget whatsoever.
And the last question I sort of have on this specific point before we move on is, let's say, like, so we have, hotels that they're very, they have maybe online historically, they haven't had that cohesive experience or communication of their story, like across their direct channels. And as a result, some of their guests or online visitors have not had the best experiences, and that is then reflected in the reviews or the word of mouth and so on. What would be your advice, I guess, for hotels, like kind of to bounce back from that and to kind of turn that into like opportunities to, I guess, I mean, maybe even in some sense, even with humor, build it into their story somehow?
That could be. They do say that video is the new review. So if we think about the nature of reviews, I think people do understand that some people are going to be upset about everything. So when we go to a restaurant, we'll go to Yelp and we'll actually look for the 1-star review. If the 1-star reviews are about personal preferences, they didn't get to me fast enough. My chicken, I wanted this and they put this. Sometimes we can see through those things and go, okay, but overall, everybody else had a good time. Reviews at hotels are very similar because personal tastes and preferences sort of rule the day. We were staying at a hotel, the Lowe's in South Beach, Miami, a couple of months ago, my wife and I, and she said, hey, we can't get a pool view room. We can't get one because the reviews say it's noisy. So I said, oh, interesting. Okay. Now we did not get that room overlooking the pool, but we didn't book it, but in the process of checking in, they upgraded us to one. And it was
Right.
like, oh boy, here we go. And what we realized was there's no noise out there. They stopped the DJ at the pool at 4 p.m. So she's like, my wife was saying, hey, when we're out there, on the balcony in the evening, it's just going to be so noisy. No, that person was complaining about the DJ being there, but didn't put a timestamp on it. It's a non-issue. In fact, we went for the music. And so, where some people may be saying, I didn't like this, other people are going, that's why I showed up. But the way to overcome that, to your specific question, Melissa, is video is more powerful than reviews. So I can see something for myself and I will make my own decision on whether or not I want to buy into that experience. So if you say the decor is dated, I look at the decor and I say, this is exactly my style. I love this. I'm going. So you can overcome, I don't want to say like on Travelocity or Expedia or wherever you're looking at reviews that you can overcome it. Sometimes if you've provided a poor experience and with a neglected hotel over a long period of time, that's on you. But what you can do is the next best thing. What's the next best thing? Winning over our next guest. What's the next best thing? Bettering. We're going to put money into a PIP, right? We're going to overhaul the aesthetic, the appeal here. We're going to change the decor. So there are things that you can do that include just the next best thing. The next time we set out tomorrow, we're going to provide a great experience. We're going to overhaul the website. Or if you're not going to, a lot of our customers come to us, they go, we don't want to spend $50,000 to $100,000 overhauling the existing website. What can we do? We go, for $299 a month, you can have an amazing experience hovering over the site as well. So it's just about putting that next best foot forward, especially if maybe previous management or ownership had really degraded the reputation of the hotel.
Yeah. And sorry, I keep getting like final questions on this point as you talk, but like in terms of, so obviously in terms of video content, I guess like it's a lot of times, showing, I guess pan shots of like the property. Sometimes there's, specific customer stories of their like experiences, but all very like sleek and, nicely edited and so on. But then, you hear like a lot of times that, especially on social media and things like that, like the more authentic looking, the better. I don't know what your observations are on that or what you've seen in your experience, if it's more, you know, if like those kind of very polished edited videos like resonate better, if it's more like trustworthy to have more of this, I guess maybe not the most like polished outcome, but you know, more authentic looking. That makes sense.
we see the whole we see the whole spectrum. We have some clients that say, if it's not a beautiful, professional, landscaped orientation, we are not going to put it on our website. Totally fair. But we have other 5-star hotels that do embrace exactly what you said. This looks more real. If we take it on an iPhone 15, if we take it on a newer iPhone, even delivered on desktop in a portrait view, it conveys authenticity. It likely came from someone on staff recently or someone who stayed at the hotel. We have a feature that allows you to get videos from the camera rolls of your guests. Like if you have a sign in the elevator, share your memories with us, as one of our properties, the London House in Chicago does, an Oxford hotel, where people are scanning the QR code and uploading their own memories to be highlighted on the website. But it does come across as more authentic if it is not professionally done and if it's in portrait mode. It was almost as if it was pulled from social media. So we do see very good rates of engagement and conversions from those types of videos, but they don't have to be even a 30-second video. We believe in a clipped video society where if I see an image on your site of a bed, and this is like hotels always show the bed. We know there's going to be a bed. We anticipate the bed being in the bedroom. But what are the views like? When I open the curtains, what am I looking at? What other amenities do you want to highlight inside the room in a video format? And so oftentimes just a 5-second sweep video done by a housekeeper, assistant manager, someone there on staff can unlock an enormous amount of value for these brands. It's taking the image and then adding just a 5-second video. People go, oh, this is what the Deluxe Queen looks like. There's a lot more room in there than we thought. Because your average person can't compute what 62 square feet looks like.
Yeah.
If you have I have 62 square feet, well, this one's going to be, you know, as I'm saying, 62 square feet more. If one is 400 square feet and one is 450, and they're using that as a selling point, people really don't know. Let's see what I actually got for that extra square foot. What did it manifest as? Those are really important things to try to bring out through video.
Yeah. I guess also finding what works for your business or what works for your different demographics that you target would make sense as well. Well, kind of moving on, I guess, so that we can cover a little bit more ground here. And this is a question I like to ask all of my guests, just because, you know, it's always interesting to see the different perspectives on this. But sort of looking to the future of our industry, like what are sort of, I guess, like 1 to 3 predictions that you have for the future of like hospitality, travel, technology within the next like few years going into the future, and why?
One thing that I believe, it just leans more into the emotion, more into the visualization of the experience. I do see a blend of AI storytelling, not as a chatbot, not as someone that's answering the phone, but who can thoughtfully create and craft experiences that people will want to buy into and lean into. So it could be video storytelling, it could be audio storytelling on top of images as well. So those are 2 things. And then I think just visualizing the spaces. So Matterport, you know, and visiting media, we use those. So our guests want to deliver Matterport on their site through Hovr. But that's a 3D walkthrough. More immersive experiences, I think, will tend to be more prevalent in probably the later portion of 2025, where you start to be able to see spaces, whether it's dining, rooftop lounge, or full amenities in a more immersive experience, almost like mixed reality between AR, VR, where it could be a headset, it could be exploring new places, it could be, you know, using Apple Vision Pro, things like that. But being able to see and experience, and when I say experience, I don't just mean like 3D walkthrough, pan around, or YouTube 360 video, but bringing in audio, bringing in the people that we would do it with in an experience, collaborating on the booking process as well. Um, accessing the internet is something that we always do in isolation, whether it's
Yeah.
our phone or our computers. We're the driver, and we do it in isolation. But we don't really book trips in isolation. I don't book a trip and then tell my wife where we're going and when we're going. This is something that gets talked about, especially with larger groups, talked about dates, places, times, experiences. So to foster and enable that collaboration in real time or even asynchronously, I think is something that we're working toward right now to debut in late 25, 26 as a future technology that helps people collaborate when they go ahead and book.
So you mean like sort of creating, I don't know if I'm using the correct term, but like the single guest itinerary where they can build everything together. Is that what you mean, kind of?
No. Single guest itinerary is predicated on the notion that we know where we're going, and now we're going to put our schedule together. But if my wife and I were booking a trip, and she's over there looking at a Hilton, and I'm looking at a Ritz-Carlton, I should be able to invite her into my experience. We should be able to see the space, experience it, know what it's like, collaborate with audio or text in real time or asynchronously. One of our patents includes the ability to co-browse and consume a website together over periods of time, where I may drop a breadcrumb for her and say, oh, check out this pool scene. It looks amazing for the kids. She's working, but she gets a ping in a Chrome extension, which says there's a comment. She navigates over to the page, sees my comment, makes another comment back. And over a period of multiple sessions, we continuously collaborate to consume that asset, which is a website, and then make our plan together. But this can also be done in mixed reality as well.
Yeah, that's really good in making things more seamless in terms of not having, then you don't have to wait, to then have that discussion afterwards, and have it done in real time. It's exciting to possibility. And sort of looking to, because actually sort of referencing, I guess, kind of the industry trends that are overall being predicted for 2025 and beyond. And we've spoken a lot about websites being, like the main direct channel, and how hotels can kind of ensure that this is, resonating with guests. But with kind of these increased, with the rise of Gen Z and, Alpha and so on, and, increased usage of social media to get like that travel inspiration. And with retail spaces also kind of going into like social commerce and things like that. Do you anticipate this like being widely adopted like within hotels, like that they start having more of a priority for like their social media channels to kind of reach these guests that are predominantly using social media to, I guess, learn about hotels, learn about brands, and then possibly even do transactions like on those platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and so on?
I do. And I'm a believer in social commerce. And I believe that the social commerce as it pertains to travel and hospitality is an exact birth or result of the neglect on travel and hospitality sites. The need was met for human beings are visual creatures. So what is social media? It's visual, it's storytelling, right? Even in 20 seconds, someone can say, let me take you through my 3 days in Greece. And then they're telling a story and showing places and where they stayed. And that is captivating because it's visual, it's recent, right? And they're telling a story. So then I'm now excited. I'm excited to go to the hotel website. I'm excited to maybe book my trip, start my daydreaming session on where I'm going. So unfortunately, that was a result of the lack of innovation in the space. It was, I want to control the narrative. Back to your very first question. I, as a brand or someone who builds websites for hotels, here's the look we're going for. Here's the images we're going to use, the text we're going to use, and it's not going to change rarely at all. And then over a period of time, the market says, I like stories. I want to see what happened recently. And I can see people. So the word of mouth transcends even here. So Melissa, it's not that I'm trusting my friend. I'm trusting a stranger. And that goes to my earlier point that it's not about the trust I've built with my friend or my family members. It's about the story that's being told to me, that I now want to be a part of that story as well. So I 100% believe in social commerce. It's here to stay. You'll see more ability for people to book direct from those channels as well. Every effort should be made to move people from that social experience to the website, though. That is where or creating microsites that are enabled right over those social experiences. So it can be quite jarring. There needs to be a middle ground that stood up, another effort. If I'm engaging in a highly visual, video-led social experience, and then I'm trying to get someone over to my website, which is not set up for that type of browsing, discovery, or engagement, that's a disconnect. We're going to lose that customer. So there should be efforts being made to have a second place, which more mirrors the social experience. That's what we do at Hovr too with our mobile features. We have specifically mobile optimized features called pathways, which swipe up to new video experiences, just like you would normally have on a social platform. But now the wonderful thing is it's in a channel I own, with messaging I control, with no distractions from Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. It's in my channel, or even Travelocity or Expedia, where there's other things. So this other site that's specifically dedicated to a more social activity. But I don't think social commerce is leaving anytime soon. I think that more entrants will be coming in the next year that probably will take a OTA type of share of conversion. So they'll have sort of a microsite built with all of your assets at the hotel, and they'll be that middle ground converting you from social to their site to then booking through maybe your engine or an affiliate. But that's what I see for sure.
When you say microsite, it's the social media platforms having this, or is it the?
I see an emergence of new companies that exist for the sole purpose to take all of your visual assets and hardly any of the text, hardly any of the branding, and position it as a jump from social media to that microsite for the sole purpose of driving excitement and getting that conversion for the brand, but different than the brand. If the brand moves in that direction first, that could be advantageous.
Yeah. And I do agree that I guess having that ownership over your own narrative and having that control over your website it's important, especially with when things change and you don't want to be left in the lurch in some way. But I guess this is always been a relevant question in terms of standing out, I guess, from the competition. And I think in social media it's also relevant in the sense that to your point that there being a lot of different distractions, different things on social networks that can kind of pull your attention away as a consumer. And what would be your advice, I guess, to hotels, like to stand out on these platforms and increase the traffic to their websites from these channels? And because I think sometimes also as well, there's so many different social media channels, and it's kind of like, okay, how do we make sure that the experience is cohesive and consistent, and that it drives that traffic to our website?
Yeah, I fundamentally think that the market will always win. The market just wins. And so if an experience is better on social media, the people will stay on social media. If the experience is on par or better on a mobile device in a website, then that experience will win out. If it's not going to be on par, if I'm not going to get that type of engagement, if I'm not seeing video, I'm going to stay where I tend to like the experience better. The ways that I think people can help that is second, there, as I mentioned earlier, is a massive push for websites to be built to convert, not to discover, not to explore. So what that leads to is book nows being everywhere. Book now, book now, book now. There is a space between where I am today and booking. That is checking out the website, the website amenities. It's checking out the rooms. It's looking for, okay, if I do really like this hotel, when is the best place to be there? What else is happening in the community? Is there a marathon going on? So it's not solely about me having this need to be in Dallas on December 3rd. So I'm going to book this. That's great if you can do that. That's a very small subset of the population that's going to do that. So on social media, a lot of times you will see CTAs, book now, start your trip now. But we should be offering people an alternative. So you could book now if you're ready. But what is another experience that I've crafted just for you over in this other channel that may be equally as enticing for you to just learn more and explore and discover our surrounding areas? So I think that seeing a beautiful place from someone that I know or care about on social media, and then checking out the social media page for like the St. Regis and in Bermuda or something, and they go, okay, now I'm looking at their social channel, which again is completely detached from where I book currently. And going over to the website could be a jarring experience. So what is that next step that you want me to take? And that's between booking and where I am right now. And I think that if we can begin to craft experiences that take people to their next place with us, what's the next thing? It's just understanding how great Bermuda could be as a vacation destination. Then once I'm there, what's the next thing? Well, it's discovering all that they could actually do and explore on our island. And then what's the next thing? Seeing our accommodations and our food, because these are top notch. And then what's the next thing? Maybe looking at pricing. Would you be interested in how much this is? So it's creating that cohesive step-by-step experience, and people will follow it. They will follow those breadcrumbs. But going from I'm in a social channel and I saw somebody surfing to I'm going to book, highly unlikely. Very rare.
Yeah, especially when there's like a bunch of other players doing the same thing and just kind of trying to get that. I guess a lot of it has to do with the consumer intent. And sometimes, it's kind of like, let's just, if we put it in their faces enough, like they'll convert. But it's like, no, you have to realize the intentions on the journey.
And if it worked, Melissa, we would see it working. If the status quo worked, we would see that it's the highest conversion rate of all of online shopping, the lowest cart abandonment rate of all of online shopping. But it doesn't work. So we have to make a change.
Yeah. And sort of going to, I guess, looking at the increased demands for like personalization. And this is something that, you hear it a lot, like broken record across the industry, and not just our industry, but like multiple industries as well. It's like, okay, there's increased demands for personalization, and it's like buzzword. And in some ways, it's kind of like, there's this conundrum where, there's guests increasingly, well, consumers increasingly like concerned about how their data is being used. And especially in Europe, that's a big talking point. But then at the same time, they want to have their needs and what they're looking for, and, the companies that they're engaging with, like giving them what they want, in many cases before even asking for it. So I guess my question that I would put to you is, how can hotels like meet this demand, but then also, and I guess deliver these personalized experiences in, I guess you would say, the right way, like a way that doesn't, that guests don't feel like this is a bit invasive or this is a bit creepy or so on.
Yeah, well, the good news is I see, and we are working on too, waves of personalization coming to the web experience, not just from customizing offers for people, but also the content they consume. So if I am a family of 5 on a site booking a family vacation, the business traveler stuff doesn't really appeal to me. The spa, probably going to skip it this time around, right? I just can't get to it. But the pool activities, the beach activities, the rooms with the bunk beds, how family friendly the restaurants are that are being offered to me, the ability to reskin a website based on actions, inactions, channel entry, known knowns, or guesstimations about me, have the ability to, both in the text that I'm reading, the images or videos that are being delivered to me, based on what my intention is. And that's really what it's predicated off of. What are your intentions? Is this a business trip? You've been to this hotel 3 times as a business, but now you're coming for family trip. How can we make that experience look better for you so that, again, we can craft a story, and then you can decide whether or not you see yourself in our story. And I think that, and you see this, like I was in the Bahamas at the Baha Mar for a conference. Now I'm traveling there under one pretense for a conference. So we're doing conference things, restaurants, bars, meeting space. Those were important at that point in time, in which room. But they also have a ton of kid activities, beach, the jet ski rentals, beach days, fishing trips, excursions. They have a water park there. So that booking experience should actually be different based on my intentions. And right now, I don't currently see a whole lot of tools that will help personalize and customize it for what my intentions are. We should get to the point where, as marketers, we can reliably deliver the right piece of content to the right individual, not only at the right time, but in the right medium as well. So sometimes what I mean by medium is, you may need a case study to convert, a PDF case study. I may need a gallery of 6 images. Johnny may need 3 different videos, testimonial of the people that work there, guests, reviews, and some combination of video. And so can we offer you up the right piece of content in the right medium based on how your personality likes to consume content? And those are known knowns out there. But doing it, as you said, in a way that doesn't violate GDPR or CCPA, especially when cookies are being deprecated, poses an interesting opportunity, one that we're seizing on, but I know that many others are out there working on it as well. How can we, in a cookieless world, still get the personalization, still understand browsing history and some other elements, channel entry being one of those? If you're coming from Instagram, that should be treated entirely different from a web rendering. That website should render completely different based on where you came from, because you may have already been warmed up with certain pieces of content, and again, just having that continuity from one experience to the next in your journey should be afforded. And I do think that in 2025 there'll be even more personalization options out there, including one from Hovr.
Yeah. And I think also, to your point of what you were saying earlier about context being important, it's like in certain companies or certain, I don't know, I'll use an example. Like I booked with a certain airline, like a very short, business trip to the UK. And it was kind of around the springtime. And then, later on, I got emails from the airline about like summer deals to like travel the country, like, like to travel the UK and so on. And I was just kind of like, well, I was there recently. It's not my number one choice for a summer trip, so I don't know. I guess that's the $1 million question, like balancing those little nuances. It's like, okay, yeah, you can tell from the behavior that, this person went there, but like, how do you actually talk to them in the way that like resonates properly with their intention?
So I love that example. And I think that humans are a really good source of those pieces of information going into a model that predicts. So what I mean by that is, are you familiar with the Zara case study? They usually do it in business school. It's about personalizing clothes in regions.
I haven't, I'm not familiar, so please enlighten me.
Yeah, I'll give you 15, 30 seconds. So, Zara is not actually a luxury brand, but they want to be perceived as one. They want to be everywhere Gucci is, everywhere Prada is. There you also see Zara. One of the reasons why their founder is like top 10 most wealthiest person in the world is because of their rapid iteration. So if you're in New York City, Fifth Avenue, you go to Zara, and historically clothes on the rack are for a whole season. It's not changing. But at Zara, you pick up a shirt and you say, hey, I really like this, but that stripe on the sleeve. No, there's someone right there with you. Oh, you don't like the stripe on the sleeve? No. They put it back and they don't buy it. That employee of Zara's goes back to the system and marks in the comments about how a real customer is actually perceiving that article of clothing in real time. And then 2 weeks to a month later, they go back and somebody's shopping and they pick up the shirt. There's no stripe. It's smaller batches that are more custom. And that's the experience that you're talking about, is how can we get micro feedback, whether it's the front desk agent, whether it's somebody on the phone, whether you're sitting down in first class on a flight and they ask you, oh, are you traveling business or pleasure? Oh, have you ever been to London before? No, it's my first time. Have you ever been in the fall? No, you've got to come back. And you say, I would love to. Now we're getting human beings putting information into the engine with more customized outputs and marketing coming your way based on interactions, but there's really no profile, right, of interactions that we can offer up to people. That would be very interesting in the future. If it's pretty common that we would talk to the front desk agent. It's pretty common that we have conversations with the bartender or the waiter. And so if these went into a model which helps us have better experiences in the future, that could be very interesting.
Yeah, and I guess help to kind of structure it for the hotels as well. So it's kind of, everything's consolidated and they have all those insights that they can act on in a structured way. Because something that I think, something I think is a bit, I don't know, the usual thing. It's like, oh, let's do a customer survey, but it's like a lot of times you don't, I don't know, for me personally, the insights are kind of, you can get more of those like nuances, but in many cases it's very generic, or it's kind of ticking different things here and there, but it's like actually getting those valuable, like nuanced insights would be interesting to see how that would develop and impact hotels.
It also doesn't account for the fact that you may be open to exploring or discovering an experience that you haven't planned yet. If a customer service survey came your way and they said, are you planning to go to London in the fall? You would say, not currently, right? But you would be open to it for the right price, a better experience, right? You may be planning to go to Italy, but you say, based on these types of input, I'm open to some experience. I have some level of finances to be able to do this if I was shown an exceptional experience. And so what we find is people are open to being swayed or influenced when they're discovering. They're not really dead set on a specific location. They may have a certain amount of money, certain amount of time, but they're really trying to get the best possible experience out of it. Not necessarily check off the box for a certain area.
Yeah. And it's interesting point, like what would be your advice, I guess, for hotels to, because I like what you said about, and I agree with this notion of like convincing consumers that they want to do something before they even maybe cognitively realize that they want to do it. Are there any ways, in your opinion, that hotels could do this effectively with where we're at now in terms of technology and so on?
Be prepared. Being prepared. A lot of customers we talk to, they talk about their seasonality. If it's a mountain resort in Whistler, if it's a beach resort and they have seasonality, maybe it's in the Northeast and really the summer is when everything's on full display for them and they've got a lakefront experience. They think that their booking windows are and based on historical traffic, they're spikes, right? And based on how far out people are willing to book into their experience. However, if you're prepared, even if you get 300 people a month to the website, are you prepared? Have you set up the experience to allow for discovery and exploration when someone does wander upon you? Or are you just set up for conversion for your busy windows? And that's okay. A lot of times we see optimization for conversion. I would offer another look, keep the conversion, but also offer some level of optimization for discovery and exploration of both your hotel, resort, everything that it has to offer, but the surrounding areas. A lot of times when people come through, they come through a social channel, word of mouth, paid advertising, paid search, paid social. The website is not so set up for exploration and discovery of convincing someone that this could be a really interesting vacation. It's set up to convert those who maybe already have their minds set up, or their minds locked on that hotel.
And I'm wondering, this is kind of like just listening to you talk and also kind of getting the looking at AI specifically and the different like strides that have been made in this regard, and especially with like the likes of ChatGPT and things like that. Would there be ways, do you foresee, like in the future, for hotels to kind of leverage similar type solutions that I guess could somehow generate these insights from guests? And would that be relevant in terms of driving those conversions, or would you, in an ideal scenario, want the guests to I guess like go to the websites or go to the channels and make those steps without even having to, I guess, engage in that way with those kind of conversational interfaces?
When you say could provide these guests those insights, which insights do you mean for like ChatGPT providing insights?
So like, okay, and you have to forgive my technical knowledge, so I'm going to try and articulate this in the best way, in a way that makes sense. But like, for instance, let's say, with ChatGPT or something like that, you converse with it, you have your things that you need, or you ask questions, or you want like very specific information back. But then if there was a way somehow that this is integrated into like the hotel's like back office, and then they get those queries or those questions and stuff from the guests, and then they could use those insights to then act on it and personalize the experiences better. Do you see this as being like relevant, or will this develop going forward, or is there a need for it?
I think I've already seen players in the space that are creating like conversational AI chatbots, which will show, hey, I'm coming to the area. I have 2 kids. What room would be best for us? And then based on the data set, right, and maybe them parsing, scanning the website, they're going to say, hey, what would really be great for you guys is this room, or we're coming in January. What's happening? Which is probably the best use case, I think, is going out to all of the internet for ChatGPT or wherever it is and saying, hey, what are the best things to do in Chicago in October for kids? And then, hey, here's the schedule, here's upcoming, here's what people normally do, here's the best places to tour. Those are really great. To your earlier point about anticipating their needs before they have to search for it, though, could be building an experience which shows people a bubble in a video that says top 10 things to do in Chicago in the fall, right? Based on known knowns, channel entry, things like that. But I do think that there's going to be a home for some type of interactive AI chat. I don't think everybody likes it. I don't think everybody wants it, but I do think that the players that are here are going to continue to sell. We see that that's not something that we will get into. The way that we intend to use our generative AI feature for reskinning the site is we can change any content, any text on a website in real time based on a plurality of information. And so if you come on the site, having images be different, videos be different, the whole configuration, the header text is slightly different, offering you slightly something different, which may resonate with you more than another visitor, which just came by 2 minutes ago. That's probably where we see the bigger opportunity rather than this. That equates to, instead of me going out to Google and saying top 10 things to do in Chicago in October with kids, I'm just doing it on the site, which is better, because I haven't left the site theoretically, but I just don't know how big that market will end up being.
But in terms of like visibility to actually get the traffic from the search engines to the websites or the other direct channels, and I guess we kind of briefly discussed this earlier, like, and with AI like becoming more integrated into like the search engines and focused on more like I guess you'd say more specific answers, and like you say, like top places or things to do in such and such place or destination. What would be your advice for hotels to actually make sure that they're optimized in terms of their content, in terms of everything, to make sure that they're visible on these channels, that then, you know, they get the traffic coming in?
It's tough if the customer is in the exploration phase. So if you type in hotels Dallas, you're going to get all Google, right? Like the ones that they're recommending, or that people maybe have paid for. You're going to get the top ones in terms of ranking, and then you're going to get almost every OTA bidding on that term as well.
Yeah.
So real-time bidding, RTB. So these people are hotels.com, Expedia. They're all trying to get there. They may have also invested, and here's where I also see AI is generating long form or short form type articles to then be cataloged and archived on a boutique or independent hotel's website. So that is a really great way to use AI, is beefing up this library and then bidding on those terms. Best things to do in Chicago in October, having an article sitting on your website that is getting a lot of traffic. You may be bidding on those terms. You may be organically, which is even better, filtering up to the top. Now you've got a lot of traffic. That is a great way to use AI, in my opinion. It's a way to leverage, so you don't have people there sitting. All of the information is readily available. It can be done on ChatGPT in 2 seconds, and then you create, you know, your article. But I think from a search perspective, having your load times be fast, having content there for people to explore, having more video, those are ways that you would begin to, you know, surface up to the top. But it may just be also that this is the new norm for some people, which is, you know, they Google this, they go through Gemini and they check out one of the hotels that's being offered. But most of the time there will be a direct link. And so while you can't necessarily circumvent what Google's going to do on Google, you can be prepared when someone does come to your site. If the Google experience, if the Expedia experience, if the Travelocity experience is better than your experience, the market's going to win out.
Yeah. So I guess like keep your house in order.
Yeah, for when anyone pops by.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely some food for thought, and yeah, to keep in mind going forward, certainly for our listeners. We're actually kind of at the end of our time for today, but I did want to just put one last question to you before we close, and sort of looking to the new year. You know, we're on the last quarter. What are you most looking forward to in the upcoming months, and why?
Yeah, we have a couple of great shows we're going to. So we're going to the hospitality show. There's a biotech event coming up. There may be another one in December that we attend. And I'm always reinvigorated by being in person, especially in the trade show types. Biotech events are more like 18 guaranteed one-on-one speed dating, which is still great. But being at our booth, seeing people come up that have never heard of Hovr, talking to them, talking about their problems. As someone who really likes to help on the product side as a CEO, I love this mixture of hearing real problems from real customers and then being able to help ideate on how we solve those is really fun. So just getting in front of our customers a couple times before the end of the year is going to be great for me personally.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be energizing with ideas and discussions and so on for the future. So yeah, sounds good.
What about you? What are you most looking forward to?
Ooh, there's a lot of things. We've got some stuff on a company level at Guest-Centric, you know, in the works that yeah, we can't really speak about at the moment, but the big reveal will come next year. So we're quite excited on that front. On a personal level, yeah, I've got some trips on the horizon that I'm looking forward to as well. I love to travel, to kind of get out there as well. So looking forward to that on that side. Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, Jason, it was really a pleasure to meet you, and really great chatting to you as well. And thank you for coming on and for sharing your insights with us. I learned a lot. I'm sure our listeners will as well. And thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you on the next one, and be sure to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.